I teach drums, right? If you don't know that about me already. And one of the things I teach my students is how to hold the drumsticks, right? I had learned from my teachers to kind of grip like this, right? You pinch the top like that, then these fingers kind of rest underneath, and that's where the bounce kind of happens. So I had marching, jazz kind of background drum teachers. That was the way I'd kind of learned it. Concert band, my private drum lessons, all the places that I had learned was kind of like that. It wasn't until later, I think I was watching a Drumeo video with Todd Suckerman where he talked about like disciplining the dog, like the bad dog type of grip where you kind of hold underneath. Because I had carpal tunnel, and for a while, like playing really, really hurt, and I was like over gripping, and especially because I grew up playing like rock and metal music, right? And so one of the things that I've kind of come to realize, just watching a lot of like really, really good players and players that had technique that like helps them play for long periods of time, is kind of the weight distribution of where the sticks kind of need to be best utilized. Because these are tools, like these are the things that actually hit the instrument, and it's something that has helped me out a lot, is just figuring out where to be squeezing and when. Learned and unlearned so many different things about the drums when it comes to technique, as far as how you should do things one way versus another way. Do you bury the beater? Do you not bury the beater? All these little things that are constantly contradicting each other. My philosophy is like, first and foremost, I want us playing healthy. I want us being able to play for long periods of time and playing until we're older, because I love the drums, I love playing music, and I want to be able to do it for a long time. So one, I want to make sure I'm not hurting myself first and foremost. Then after that, the technique is facilitated by what the music needs. If there's a certain style of music that needs you to hit the drums in a certain area in a certain way, or just what you're feeling inside to want to express yourself as a musician and an artist, to hit the drums in a certain way, to play them artistically for the performance or whatever it is that you're doing, that's going to be facilitated next. What's the most effective way to do that? And so one of the things that's really helped me a lot is realizing when you go to the gym, you go from big to small, right? If I go to the gym and I work out my fingers, right, or my wrists or my forearms, and I just get really good forearm workout, and I go to lift like a heavy weight, do a bench press or something, and then my arms give out. It just doesn't work, right? We want to go to bigger to smaller, not the other way around, right? If I'm working out my chest, I'm using my shoulders, forearms, other body parts to lift that. So when I go down to the smaller muscle groups, I can isolate that, but I still have the help and support of those smaller muscle groups for the bigger muscles, if that makes any sort of sense. So when we're hitting harder on the drums, we want to use bigger muscle groups. We're not going as fast, so we want that punchiness. So with the kick, wish I had a camera set up for the kick. I don't have that today, and I don't have time to set that up, but when you're hitting really hard, right, I'm going to use my whole leg, hip flexors, my thigh, my calf, my ankle, like my whole leg is just being thrown into the drum, right? Same thing if I want to hit hard up here on the cymbals and the drums, right? Notice my shoulders, my elbows, like a lot of these bigger muscle groups getting involved. If we want to go faster, a lot of my students, and they're a lot younger, whenever they start playing, they're going to play from the elbow here, and they learn, and that's super effective for a while until you start having to play faster, right? You start getting into 16th note songs or something like Billie Jean, which is 8th notes, but still kind of fast, right? And one of the first things you'll notice when I go to play that is there's not a lot of movement happening up top, right? My elbow's basically pinned to my sides, and my wrist kind of takes over and does a lot of that work for me. So as I start to go down to these smaller muscle groups, I have the mobility and range of motion to go a little bit faster than whenever I'm trying to utilize these bigger muscle groups to try to do that. So same thing if I'm going really, really fast, think like funk, Tower of Power, something like that. right? I'm using pretty much fingers at that point, right? Fingers, a little bit of wrist. There's a lot of movement there. That's when the grip starts to come up to the top, right? So always thinking big to small, first of all, as my body as a whole. But then when we go down to the hands, especially, we want to think about that as well. So one of the things that saved my hand from hours of playing is not over gripping at the top. I always like to have my students grab the drumstick like a door handle, and I hold the top and so they grab it like that, and then I start shrinking my hand smaller and smaller until they go to grab it, and it's like they're using these top fingers, right? These are the ones with the strength. It doesn't matter if you're a bass player to a piano player to a drummer or anything. Our ring and our pinky finger are the weakest. They're the ones that are always causing us trouble and problems when it comes to technique and some of those other things, because getting the coordination and strength in them is super hard. But we're not over gripping there. It's really hard to over grip there. So when we're hitting harder, allowing the bottom half of our hand to kind of take control, like that Todd Suckerman thing where he said the bad dog, that relaxed grip right there, and utilizing the wrist and that snapping motion, or elbow, thinking about that whipping motion, hitting hard like that offers so much more headroom for the that rebound and all of that vibration to go and disperse into other areas, so it's not being forced into your muscles and tendons the way that if you're over gripping at the top is going to be, right? Should be reserved mostly for speed, for lighter stuff. You're doing like double time swing. Like that kind of a thing. I have to use that, right? But if I'm bashing away, there's no point in over gripping up here and hurting myself when I can just do that and be nice and relaxed. And so it's something that saved my hands, and that I would hope could save your hands. Hope could just help you rethink how you approach the drum set. Just thinking big to small. When we hit harder and louder, use the bigger muscle groups. When we want to go faster, maybe play a little bit more quietly. The dynamics aren't necessarily tied within that, but obviously hitting harder to wanting to go faster, that kind of dichotomy there, or that kind of spectrum of range of where the technique kind of needs to shift. So hopefully that helps. If you guys need any other tips and stuff on drumming, things like that, feel free to hit me up and let's make something happen. Peace.